Hey, how's it going, my fellow parents? There's so many important things we talk about on this podcast, tools that we want to give you for your toolbox to inspire you, encourage you, make you laugh. But when you're talking about building identity in your kids, we're talking about like something very important, very sacred about how we use our words, our power, our parenting to impact how our kids think about themselves. Like, who am I as a person? How do I feel about my family? How do I feel about myself? How do I feel about my life going forward? This is so key. So today we're going to do what we did last time. We're going to give you some great tools for their minds and give you some great tips and some role playing so you can really do this. And if you think about this yourself, I know I did this last time, and just to invite you again. Who are the powerful people in your life? Who are the powerful adults in their life, and how did they use their words? Did they use their words wisely to speak like just identity into you, a good, loving identity? Or did they use their words in a way to build identity to you? They're like, you know what? Looking back now, that's shady. That was not good for me to go down that path. Jordan, this is an important topic.
It is important, and it's hard because the reality is, I'd say 9 times out of 10, people around you are not going to speak identity into you positively, right? Just think of your normal everyday interactions. People are tearing us down all the time.
Yeah, I
So to
know.
have this identity, it's so important for us. And think about, like, let's say you're at work, okay? Let's use you, Sean. You're out here, you're trying to give good advice on people.
Okay.
You're probably getting a lot of hate.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
there's that one person that responds and says, "Hey, you have helped me so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you're doing. My son, my daughter is now out of an addiction problem," or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Those little positive things that get spoken to us make us understand that we're on the right track. And sometimes I
Yeah.
believe, you have the world which wants to tear you down,
Yeah.
and then you have these little earth angels and your godly path. And I believe God will put these people into your path to help you understand that you are on your path. You
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because
Yeah.
think about it, more times than not, aren't we lost? We're all just so lost. We're like,
Yeah.
I think we'll try this. Sure,
I
let's
know.
see. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
You go to school, you try to sport, you
Uh,
go to college, and like, I guess I'll get this job.
I know.
I don't know if it's what I want to
Right.
do. Is
Yeah.
that my identity? I don't know.
Right.
But then there's these little signs that be like, oh yeah, that is what I'm supposed to be doing. And
Yeah.
sometimes some of us have these midlife crises because we have never asked ourselves, like, what is my identity?
Oh,
What do I really want to
yes.
do? What do I want to be?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was going to surprise you with some of the notes that I have in front of me right now. Because let's add some skills in here and some conversation today about identity as an adult. Because some of us, we have our whole identity, built in our kids. Like, I'm
Right.
a mom, I am in
Right.
nothing else. Or I'm a dad of two successful athletes. That's who I am. But what happens
Mm-hmm.
if, is that all you are? What happens if those kids quit their sports? How we view ourselves as adults in establishing healthy self-talk to build our own identity is very healthy, and it will help us to then build it in our kids, because we can't teach what we haven't taught ourselves.
Right. It's almost like our identity definition needs to be really long because
Mm-hmm.
you aren't your job. You aren't the parent. You aren't just the
That's
spouse.
good.
At any moment, all that can get taken away from you. So, really deep down, like, who are
Oh
we?
my
What
gosh.
am I?
Right.
What are our kids? What do we
Right.
want our kids to be?
I know. And it's kind of just to put more intensity on the topic. There's a lot of social media videos going out there right now. I'm sure you've seen them, where
Hmm.
a parent's voice becomes a child's inner voice. Have you heard that little thing before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's not necessarily always true. Like, that's not a fact, but there's just a lot of going ons around that. So since our voice is so powerful and could potentially become their inner voice, let's do the hard work we can do to really create voices of love, of positivity, of identity. And let's do it. So,
Yeah.
Jordan, let's do what we did last time. Let's look a little psychology into the brain, and we're going to
Let's do
also
it.
tell some cool stories. I got some great stories ready to share. And so, Jordan, teach us something about identity.
So, here's the thing, for some of us who are listening, I don't expect you to have your kids, identity figured out by the time they're in high school. Because the reality is, just looking at
Mm,
this definition, identity encompasses the memories, experiences, relationships, and values that create one's sense of self. But
Mm.
this amalgamation creates a steady sense of who one is over time.
Oh,
It takes time for us to figure
yeah.
this out, even as new facets are developed over this timeline. And of course, it can be incorporated into this identity. So basically, identities can change too.
Yeah.
Maybe in, you know, high school,
Yeah.
you were the jock,
Yeah.
right? We talked about it last time, like the Breakfast Club. You've got the jock, you've got the bully, you've got the
Yes.
smarty pants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like those are maybe what
Right.
society, the name society puts on you, but that's not your identity.
So good. Let me just echo what you just said in a different way. Right. So it's totally normal for a teenager to go through an identity crisis. I went through at least
Right.
2 in high school. It's really normal for someone in their 40s to go through an identity crisis. But what's also this is something that I've been learning recently. My family's been helping me learn this, and tell me if you agree or disagree with what I'm about to say, because this is how I feel.
Okay.
A child's behavior can sometimes be a sign of their identity or how they view themselves. But a child or a teenager behavior can sometimes not be a sign of their identity. For example, just because your teenager is maybe making some mistakes or making some bad choices, that doesn't mean that's how they view themselves. That doesn't mean that's like they're okay with that. They're going through their own impulses and temptations and their own confusion. So they might have an identity that's built in something really healthy, but they're just having a hard time having the self-control and the discipline to live as the person they want to be.
Wannabe. So what if you have a child like that? I'm going to ask you, maybe you can coach us on this. Let's say I have a child who has been bad lately. Let's say they're acting out on the bus. And we say, well, why you do that? Well, it's just because that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, no, it's not. Well, yeah, everyone says it's who I
Right.
am. This is who I am. And so it's like they're
Yeah.
starting to believe it, even though
Yes.
that's not who they are. So you have to
Right.
try to find a way to detach that belief from them.
Personal story. I was really struggling with my identity a lot in high school. And then I realized that in my group of 7 guys, I was known as like the funny one, the weird one. And I was like
Still true
making
today.
them laugh. And I was like, oh, I didn't really know. I'm
Yeah.
the funny one. Like people think I'm funny. And I just took
Right.
that to a whole new level. I got weirder and
Oh,
more
you
funny. I
did.
started acting out in class. I started doing
Oh,
weird stuff and like instigating all this comical stuff. And my friends all dug it. It was amazing. And I was starting having problems with other
I'm
people,
sure.
but I didn't care.
Like teachers.
Right. Yeah. I could tell you some weird stories right now. Here's one right now. I gave a speech using 3x5 cards. And I thought it was
Oh, yeah.
hilarious if I would say funny stuff on the back of the 3x5 card about my teacher.
Well,
So my sweet 65-year-old female teacher, I'm giving a speech in English class about something like Shakespeare, something dumb. And on the back, it says these kind of inappropriate things about like, we'll call her Mrs. Anderson. Like, Mrs. Anderson thinks I'm cute, Look at how she's looking at me right now. And the kids were reading it on the back of my 3x5 cards. And the whole class is just busting up.
oh, I'm sure.
And, that's not cool. It's not really appropriate. It's just class clown. So I was voted most likely to host a talk show because I was like, this is who I am. And I'm going all in. So what you're talking about with this bus example is, yeah, what happens if your kid is building an identity and it's not a healthy one? It's not good. Like, do you really, like, on one hand, do you want your son to think of himself, I'm the class clown? Like,
Yeah.
would you like that?
Right.
Would you like your son to be like, I am the best gamer in school? I'm the mean one. I'm the emo one. I'm the depressed kid. Is that?
That's just because that's what everybody looks at me as. So it's like then you're creating an identity through other people's eyes because this is what they think of you.
Yeah.
Which is the hard part for us parents because we're trying to get our kids to not look at that and say, no, who are you? Who do you want to be?
Right.
I don't want you to figure out what other people want you to be.
Mhm.
Sean, the funny one, everyone thinks. Do you even want to be funny?
Right.
Well, no, but they want me to be funny. So I want to be, well, no. What do you want to be?
Right.
I want to be a Shakespeare writer. Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Well, then do that.
This is really true that if you were to really ask a senior in high school who's been playing year-round sports, a lot of sport, and they're in high school, here's what I think you'll find. You'll find about half of them do not like playing their sport anymore, Jordan. Have you ever heard this before?
Because it was, it just brings up bad memories just because, too much hard work, too much stress,
Yeah, they're just so burnt out.
burnout.
I mean, they're just burnt
I
out.
feel bad for those people who have played one sport their entire life through high school, through college,
Yeah.
hoping to make it pro. They never do. And their identity for 20 years has been the sport.
Yeah.
And now they have to go into the real world and figure their
Right.
life out.
Yeah.
That's hard.
That's hard. So like,
Because that's why it's so important to figure out what this identity is for us and for our kids and for them to figure out. One of the questions here is basically, who am I? Who do I want my future self to be?
okay.
Right? And that answer can be very complex. And so it could be overwhelming for these kids. I had that question started percolating into me probably like 8th grade. What do I want to be when I get older? I need to start thinking about this.
Yeah.
And then I had so many different ideas. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Started playing football. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not very good, but this is what I'm doing because I chose to do it. I'm already, it's hard for older people too, because it's like, oh, I've been in this job for 10 years. I can't start over.
Right.
This is my identity now.
Yes.
I've been doing this for so long.
That's exactly what a lot of varsity high school athletes will say. I don't really enjoy it, but I do it because this is what I'm known as. I'm a lacrosse player. I'm a cheerleader. What else would I do?
Right.
If I quit, my parents would freak and I would be a nobody. Right. So this is why we've got to, here's what I think we're going to do in kind of informal ways on this episode. We're going to do like do's and don'ts of how to help your children develop healthy, positive identities and how we can do that. And I'm just going to look for little do's and don'ts on how do we go. And so one of the don'ts, just going back from last time we talked about that, is, we do not want to help them, encourage them to build an identity just on conditional things that they can lose in a second, or that they're only this person, or they're only this way because of some other power, that some school teacher or some group of person can take that away from them, or some injury can take it away.
So good. I was just talking to a colleague the other day at work about this, and he gets so frustrated about stuff. And I'm like, dude, your whole life is built into this company or what you do, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But are you in charge of that? No. Can it be taken away from you? Yes. What happens if it does get taken away from you? You're right. That's when people go into depression. That's when people get lost. They go off the deep end. So I think it's important here to kind of figure out how identity is formed. And on this paper that I'm looking at, it's from psychologytoday.com. It says identity formation involves 3 tasks: discovering and developing one's potential, choosing one's purpose in life, and finding opportunities to exercise that potential and purpose. All right. Identity is also influenced by parents and peers. That's us. During childhood and experimentation in adolescence. When I'm just continuing on my story, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had so many different options. I played football, played basketball, played badminton.
Yeah, you did.
Acted in theater. And then I had this realization in college. It was either high school or college. And my family would call me a city slicker because I grew up in San Diego. Okay. I'm sorry. A flatlander. Oh, you're such a flatlander. Were you flatlanders out there driving 2-wheel drive vehicles? What are you flatlanders doing down there? Right. Oh, wow. And then in high school, since I would be hanging out with my family in the mountains and I would hunt, they'd be like, oh, you look at you. You're a Mr. Mountain Man over here, Mr. Hunter Mountain Man.
Oh, interesting.
And so I'm like, I'm getting these identities that are completely opposite from 2 different sides.
Funny.
So then I had this realization that I'm just a chameleon. That's what I figured. My identity is I'm going to adapt to whatever situation I'm in, and I'm not tied down to one thing. That's really helped me. I can be adaptable. I can do this. I can do that. I can do that. But deep down, my core is I believe I want to be a good person. I want to be a Christ follower. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a great husband.
Gosh, let's add that to the do's list right there. A chameleon. Build a chameleon identity in your kids. Let's help me flesh this out. Okay,
be adaptable.
How does this sound?
Yeah, this is good.
Like, how does this sound? Hey, you're talking to your varsity cheerleader. Hey girl, I know that you love cheer, and I love watching you cheer. You've been cheering your whole life, but cheering is going to come and go. And I want you to know, I love you. I value you, whether you're cheering or not. You don't need to be cheerful for me. You can be up, you can be down. and you are enough as you are. And if you decide you want to quit, that is okay. You're going to be just fine. Your true friends will be there for you. I will be there for you. And other things are going to come and go in your life. And cheer is going to come and go. Do you like that?
That's really good. I do
Okay.
like that. I don't think us parents tell our kids that stuff enough.
Okay.
Because I don't know, sometimes we just want to live through them. We want what's best for them, and we think, them doing the sport is helping them, which it probably is. Or, I think this is important too for the what's the political correct terminology these days? I call myself a nerd.
Okay.
So the nerds out
Yeah.
there, because I'm a science nerd, but it's like the ones that like want to constantly get the best grades, and then when they don't, they're ripped down, and they think their life's over, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not. It's like, hey, you are not your grades. You are not these grades. If you want to build your identity on grades, then do it. No one can stop you. But when I look at you, I see you. You are my son, who I love. For better or worse, you are going to be successful at whatever you set your mind to. And if you want to get good grades, then go for it. And if you don't, then that's okay too. You don't always have to get good grades. It's okay to get C's.
Right.
It's okay to not be good at something. I'm not good at most of the things I do. And so part of my identity is just being happy and accepting with my imperfections. There's a do right there.
That's
so
a
good. Do. How would you paraphrase that do that just came out in this role playing? We talked about chameleons. I'm going to write down notes. All right. So chameleon was nope number one. And let's make this number two. How would you write that down? What I just saw.
I mean, I don't know. You're so good. You're better at this than me. You were being authentic. You were being positive. You were being loving, reassuring.
What I wrote down.
These are just words that come to mind when.
What I wrote that down. All those words.
This.
What came from me listening to you was just like this. My identity is in the acceptance of my weaknesses. My identity is like, I don't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
And at things, I don't need to be good at most things, and I'm comfortable with that. I have a friend who, he doesn't like playing board games, and he is just fine. A lot of people don't like board games, but when he was open up with me one day, a long time ago, like 10 years ago, he was saying that, I think it stems from my childhood because I do not like being bad at things. It's embarrassing for me to look stupid. So what we want to do is build in our kids' identity this grit, this growth mindset. It's okay to look stupid. It's okay to
or he's just afraid to fail.
Right.
But you got it. It's okay to fail.
It's okay to fail.
You got to be okay with
that. It's
that.
okay to not be good at something. This is why what we say as parents can be really unhealthy, or using a modern word, toxic. Hey, whatever you do, you got to put in your best. Don't do anything without giving your best. We don't, in this family, do it everything. Now that can sound good if you're like an inspirational speaker or whatever, but if you're a parent, something that might sound more healthier would be, hey, you know what? Go out there and you know what? You could try your best. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay, because you're not going to be good at most things in life, and that's okay.
Right.
So
I want to kind of talk a little bit about one of the words I described, and it was the authenticity, right? And I think the more and more of us that are authentic, the more others can see who we really are. And probably we can feel who we really are if we're authentic. Don't lie. Don't try to pretend you're something you're not. And honestly, we all do it. I still do it today. You're going to try to pretend you're going to, be something just to hang out with a certain crowd or whatever. But the question is, how do you live authentically? Everyone subconsciously internalizes conventions and expectations that dictate how they believe they should think or behave, right? Think about all those outside forces telling us what we need to think, how to act. The decision to examine or challenge those assumptions, even though it's difficult, is that first step to living more authentically. And then of course he's got kind of a guide here of what to do. But the first question is, what am I hearing and how do I feel about it?
Yeah.
Right? If someone tells you whether it's a belief system, I think the first thing about being authentic is to ask yourself, is this something you really believe? Is this something you really agree with?
Good. Really good.
A lot of us don't ask that till we're more mature in life, but telling kids, hey, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to be curious. There's no dumb question, right? Because they're still trying to figure it out.
Here's three things that come to mind with me on authenticity. I added that to the do's. Create a culture in your home of authenticity. Here's 3 stories. One is, I told you, I think last time, I tried different characters and different identities in high school. And it didn't feel right. I went through a small season where I started hanging out with the partiers, the guys who were smoking and drinking. Went to the parties.
Yeah.
It didn't feel right. But I could have just faked it. I could have said, you know what? This is going to be good for me. Story number 2. There's many adults nowadays that are living an inauthentic life. They're not really truly grasping life. They're just kind of going along with these inauthentic versions of themselves because they're just so used to doing it. It's like they're living in this mask.
Well, and the hard part is because you want to fit in. So it's like the hard part, the reality is like you're just trying to survive in high school. You just want to fit in, man, anywhere you can. And I get that. It's just hard. I don't know how to steer a teenager into that decision. I remember a buddy of mine, this is kind of a deeper story. A buddy of mine went to prison for a little bit of time. And I was like, well, how is it? He's like, man, you have to find a group as fast as possible.
Gosh.
Or you are going to be like that lone fish in the sea that the shark is going to come after. You got to find your school,
right? And
you have to blend in. And I think ultimately we're doing that in high school. We're just trying to blend in, you know? Maybe that's why so many of us can't find our identity till after high school, because we're just trying to survive.
I just learned something from you. I got our 5th point. Okay. Do's and don'ts. Chameleon. Number 2, acceptance of weakness. Number 3, authenticity. Number 4, because there's such a pressure to want to fit in as a child, as a teen, and as an adult, you've got to have the courage to be authentic. You have the courage to do the hard things, to be your true self. Because if you don't have that courage, you're going to be eaten up, or you're going to be living some fake life to please your parents, please that girl, please your cool friends, please the cool crowd, or just faking it as an adult, doing some job you hate, and it's just fake because you don't have the courage. What do you think about that?
How about trying to have the courage in today's world with social media?
Yeah, you got something. You got something on your page about that so too. Hard. Yeah, talk about social media thing.
Well, as much as the world has shifted online, discrepancies have emerged between one's virtual self and real self. People may cultivate their online avatar more and more carefully over time, and the virtual self can influence the perception of the real self. Therefore, it can be valuable to reflect on whether the virtual self is really authentic.
Oh my gosh.
We could all look at that and look in the mirror and be like, oh, is my online platform what I truly am?
I don't even say. I'm just like overwhelmed right now because it just feels like so much. You got kids and teenagers using social media to brand themselves as this version of themselves on social media. I am this, I am that. And man, that is causing so many problems.
You know, I'm sure there's studies out there, but I don't know how many of kids with social media and kids without. I mean, you guys have all seen the statistics of what social media or just cell phone use in general is doing to the mass public, and especially our children. Yeah. Depression rates are going through the roof. Anxiety is going through the roof. So much negativity is out there. I get it. It's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Could you really pull that tech from them for their entire life? I don't know what the answer is for you, but I just know less.
Well, this is a podcast about giving parents tools. So I'm going to put another tool, in your box. We've got to really parent our kids with their screen life. We've got to be actively involved with it, actively involved with their typing, what they're looking at, and we want to help them understand that this device that they have in their hand can really cause damage in shaping their identity. About, hey, this is not really who you are. This is not real, what you're looking at. This can be like brainwashing. We cannot let them push us out of their online life. We've got to do the hard work of staying involved with them. And that's for
Right.
a whole different episode. It's just easier said than done.
But it's
It's
true.
true, right? It's easier said than done.
One of my favorite life lessons was in high school, ninth
Okay.
grade. I was in like world, I don't think it was economics. It must have been geography or history or something like that. But we were doing debate and we were debating on certain topics. And there was a moment when you had one side fighting the other side, let's say side A
Okay.
and side B, and they were going at it, and they truly believed in whatever they were talking
Yeah.
about, whatever
Yeah.
it was, capitalism or whatever it was. And side B had a more solid argument, and side A said, "You know what? You're
Oh,
right,"
my.
and stopped. And the teacher stopped the whole class. He goes, "You guys realize just what happened? This guy is mature enough to like fess up to what he believed in was wrong, and he now agrees with the other
Yeah.
side." Society doesn't do that. We will grab, put our nails into the, whatever, the dirt or the wood on the ground and dig our nails in and fight to try and convince people that we're right when the majority of the time we know we're wrong. We
Ooh.
just have been in the side for so long. This is our identity now, and we can't jump to
Yes.
the other side of whatever
Right.
it is.
Well said. Yeah, you got to have the courage to be authentic, vulnerable, accepting of your weaknesses, of your flaws. I got something for parents here. You made me think of something. All right.
What is it?
So, all right. Here we are as parents. You're a good parent because you're listening to a parenting podcast and you're trying to grow. You're trying to be the best parent you can be. And so here's something we're all going to struggle with. We're all going to try to push our kids into having a really healthy identity. This is just going to happen naturally and normally. But we need to be aware that our children are not these bonsai trees. We cannot force them to do these things. We cannot overpower them. We can cause damage by being too aggressive with us over coaching them, over parenting them. And if we cross that line, then could potentially be creating a power struggle where our kids are not going to go down these good paths because it's like, hey, you know what? This is not me. This is you. It could be me, but your parenting is so freaking intense. I don't even want to go down there because it's like, it's just about you. And so when you get this image of me as someone grasping, and their nails are on the wood holding on.
Yeah.
One image that came up to me was like, hey, the do's and don'ts, this would be a don't. We do not overparent in your own ego and your own selfishness to push your child into an identity, that you want for them, that they're just not ready.
It's hard for us parents because like we've known these kids since they were, some of us in our bellies, right? For the moms out there, and like us holding this little child, the sweet innocence and everything that it has been to the whatever stage they're at right now. And how amazing they are. And the hard part for us is trying to convince our kids of how amazing they are.
Said.
Because like I said to start this podcast, society's tearing them down and they're not believing it. So it's almost like, you know how you will go on social media and you'll watch these videos with your youngest daughter and you'll kind of like almost do like a little lesson or like, hey, check this out, and she'll watch with you. It's almost like we need to do little life memories of the past 5 years. Like, hey guys, look how cool our life is. With music and like it's like a movie to celebrate so that they can see like, man, I got a cool life, because if they're just looking at the next thing, they could forget that.
That's good.
Like, and be
just today on, I think, my Google Photos, I got a pop-up.
Yeah, Google Photos is great because it does
just
that
today,
pop-up.
and it played music to it. I almost like was sitting there brushing my teeth, and it showed me these videos with music, and I was like, good now. But here's everyday parenting. So your teenagers especially are going to go through an identity crisis. I got a couple words for you from an article which we read last week, the Berkeley Wellbeing Institute. So how do we walk on that fine line as we're trying to build healthy identity, knowing we can underparent, but we can overparent, but knowing that there's a strong chance that all of our kids are going to go through this identity crisis. And I'm going to tell you a couple stories to really get under your skin to help you see how real this is. The article reads, what's an identity crisis? A person's identity can gradually shift and change due to nuances in their circumstances and their environment. Yet, There are times an individual may feel lost, as if everything they believed about themselves is suddenly gone. Hence, we call periods of intense analysis and inward exploration of a person's sense and identity a crisis. You want to hear some stories?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard when people are in that
Here's some
time. It's like you're in a hole. You're in a black hole and you
Here's
can't
some
get
stories. These are just to prepare you. Some of these could be really dark. I'll start with a very dark one right now, okay? So imagine
Okay.
you're a parent, and for some parents, this is an imaginary story. This actually happened to them. And their lovely son, 8th grade son, shocks them one day. Says, "Hey guys, I need to tell you that I would like to start dressing like a girl. I want to wear dresses to school and grow my hair out." And this is out of the blue. Can you imagine the pain and the shock that most parents would feel in that moment?
out. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then after they brought me in, because they were like, "Can you help us? We don't know what to say. We don't know what to do.
This is real life.
Is this something that we should support? Should we not support? We don't feel like it's healthy. We don't know where it's coming from.
Right.
We think we know what's happening, but we're not sure, but we don't want to cause more pain. We can't call any of our therapists because here in California, they can't help us with that. No one at our church is helping us. We are so lost, we don't know what to do." After doing some listening and helping out, I learned that this young man had a girl that he had become very involved with. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the girl, they had been communicating a lot on an app called Tumblr. And I did a little spying because it's a public app, and you can see there's a lot of sexual, perverted, trans stuff in the app, and you can see them talking to each other.
Oh, it's all. I didn't realize it. I've never been on it. Okay.
Thankfully, the app has been really banned and limited. It's still out there, but back in like 10, 15 years ago, it was like the worst of the worst. Now it's mostly on this other app, which is called Discord. So the girl was telling the boy that he's a girl and that he is her lesbian girlfriend.
Oh my gosh, this sounds so familiar.
So they're lesbian lovers, even though I guess they're attracted to each other because they're boy and girl. But she was saying, "I want to call you a girl. I want you to dress like a girl.
Right.
And you're my lesbian, and you're a lesbian."
And these are 8th graders.
So he's now calling himself a lesbian.
Okay.
And the parents just don't know what to do. And then we, in further investigating, found out that this girl lived locally. They went to the same school together, and there was a strong chance that she was being sexually abused by her brother.
Okay. Ouch. You figured this out through him?
Some detective skills, right? And some listening, right? And so what do you do as a parent? I know there's a level 10 story, but what do you do? I'm going to give you some tools because I've been down this path many times. Different forms of intensity. If your kid comes to you and says, "Hey, this is my identity, and this is where I want to go, and I want you to accept it."
Well, this is the situation of the kid believing this identity because someone else is trying to force it on them. This isn't the actual kid's identity. That's what we were trying to say. Is like, you're not being authentic. Right. You're allowing society to tell you what you want and what you don't want. You're not really asking yourself.
Let's argue for a second, but couldn't you make that argument for every single teenager ever? That their identity is based on the peers around them have helped make that happen. Like, you know, like one of the reasons why,
and you're just trying to survive.
One of the reasons why I didn't enjoy going to the party scene is because, like, I went a couple parties and they were not like, "Sean, what's up? Yeah, man, how's it going? You're the best. We love you." I didn't get like fully accepted into the group quickly. And I didn't. So then it kind of sent a message. Maybe these aren't my people. But imagine if you're someone and you're feeling lost, you're feeling disenchanted. Maybe you're the new kid in school. Maybe you feel lonely, alone. Then all of a sudden, this one community of group, whether it be these healthy kids, or in this case, we'll call them unhealthy kids, they were like, "Hey, come on, you're one of us. Come on, do this." You're like, this
Yeah.
child
Yeah.
is what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? Help me, like yeah,
Malleable.
malleable, like
This child
fragile,
is
vulnerable,
vulnerable, fragile.
vulnerable
Yes.
to adopt an unhealthy identity. Vulnerable.
Well, every kid is A. B, you're right. And in high school or whatever school we're in, we're sometimes we're just trying to adapt and fit in. And so in this case, you could think you're fitting in just to
Mm-hmm.
survive. The problem is I don't think these people who are just surviving have really asked themselves, what do I truly want? They're probably saying, I just want to get through
Right.
this,
Right.
you know?
This is a yeah.
So
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think it's up to us to try to like continue to instill into the kids that they have
Yeah.
power over their decisions and what they really
Right.
want if they look deep enough and really figure it out.
We
We
got
can't
to.
force them.
Yeah. Here's a couple.
So how do you advise those parents? How do you
So
advise
yeah.
that kid? Do
Well,
you tell
here's
the
yeah.
truth?
So I'm gonna because of a variety of different reasons, you're gonna see that um, I'm gonna because we're talking about trans and LGBTQ right now. I'm gonna speak with a different level of carefulness in my tone because I want to show love and honor and inclusion to everyone. So very complicated, very personal story because there are some parents who are what we'll describe as affirming, and then there's some parents that are non-affirming. And what's interesting about affirming is that in most states, every single teacher, every single counselor, every single principal, every single coach is going to be affirming to your child. And so if you think about it, in most homes, the only non-affirming parent, excuse me, let me repeat. In most homes, the only non-affirming adult in your child's life is you. So if you affirm an identity, whether it be this one, this one, this one, this one, then like how you affirm or not affirm is very sensitive because if you in many situations you're the only one who would not affirm something because society is going to affirm.
I see what you're saying. Okay. So but then you're in a bad position as a parent because you don't want to,
You
let's say,
don't.
lose your child, right?
Very
If you don't
complicated.
affirm and they run because they're like,
I
fine,
don't
then
have
I'm
the
doing
stat in
my own
front of
thing.
me, but there's a lot of stats on like the trans movement right now, and I think the number is very high. I think it's somewhere around 80%. Forgive me for not having this stat. I believe the latest research coming out of numerous studies has shown that 80%, and it could be higher than that. I really need to get this number down. 80% of teenagers who identify as trans or in the trans community or are dabbling with
Yeah.
trans, by the time they get, to a certain age, they grow out of it and they're not interested in that anymore.
Right.
They more identify
Well,
as a more, the other term I'm looking for, not LGBTQ.
so here's it. Right. So Dr. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this, whether you listen to him or not. He's a really smart guy. He goes pretty deep on certain topics. But what one of the theories are that are out there is like when we're a kid, we role play all the time. We play with Barbie dolls, even if you're a boy. If you're a girl, you could play with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle dolls, or you go out and you do quote unquote manly things. So we're constantly trying to role play and figure out our identity, right? Society has that identity. We're trying to figure out that identity, and majority of the time we get through it
Yeah.
and we move on. And that's what you're saying in this with that stat is basically some of the folks who didn't get that play out at a young age, they're still trying to figure that out as they're getting older. Or I believe that there's some kind of, trends, whatever trend is out there, people are going to do. It's so funny how you look at trends, like everyone's buying, what are those dang cups called? Stanleys. You got to get the latest Stanley, right? It's like a dang trend on a water bottle. Or before it was the Yeti, you got to go. And it's like these trends are crazy. And I think sometimes we as human beings can jump onto certain trends. Now, that's not
Yeah.
obviously widespread. Some people have their own story behind it, but that goes along with it as well.
I
Did you find
did. I
that
did.
stat?
It
I know
didn't
you were
take me
looking it
long at
up.
all. A New York Post by Andrew Court, published in February 22, 2023. The title reads, 4 out of 5 kids who question gender, quote, grow out of it. Transgender expert reports. So a psychiatrist
Got it. So you
who
were right.
presided over
on that,
youth
yeah.
transgender treatments. So see, this is why it's challenging, because if your child comes up to you and says, hey, this is where I want to go one day, we have to have wisdom and common sense. And we have to think to ourselves, okay, is it okay for my child to have blue hair and wear makeup around their eyes? Well, maybe it is, because they're in high school and they want to have blue hair, right? Right? Go
Right.
for it.
Yeah.
You want to dress up this way? Go ahead. Like, this is what it means to be a high school kid. Like, your high school kids are not they're going to try to dress the opposite of you, and they want to dress in their own weird, unique way. But then there's this fine line. Hey, this is versus, let's take another extreme example. Hey, I've been hanging out with these kids and we all smoke pot. Everyone's vaping. So this is what I want to do. I'm going to do this now. So do we just support that identity, or do we say, no, I love you, I cannot support this. I cannot affirm this. We have to figure this out together as a family, because this is not going to work for us. So
going back to that story, is that the route that those parents took? Do you know? Do you remember?
For this family, because I've worked with many families in these type of situations, very sensitive, extremely sensitive. They decided they wanted to be non-affirming.
Okay.
And so what we did was,
meaning they go, what does that mean? They
did not want to support their son dressing up like a girl or down a trans lifestyle. And long story short, we really did some really good counseling with him. We really nurtured and repaired the relationship he had with his dad. We helped him investigate his relationship with this girl. We had him take a break from the online platform Tumblr, where he was just receiving a lot of this really confusing, negative, adult-like pornographic content. And as far as I knew, he changed his mind, and he did not want to dress up like a girl. He did not want to be in a relationship with this girl. And he just wanted to, live his life and dress like a man in high school. And he did that.
Right.
And I saw him a few years later, and he was a man. Here's something creative I did. He said, like, I feel like I'm a girl. Like, so for example, I don't like my arm hair, my leg hair. I feel like I'm a girl. And so,
that doesn't
here's
mean,
what I did.
Okay. That's
in basketball,
a weird identity
a lot of basketball players, they shave their arms and their legs. Swimmers. So what I did is, I have this big friend. His name is Ryan, big old muscular dude. And I play basketball with him. He shaves his arms and his legs. So us three went out to coffee. And we talked about how it's very normal for a man to want to shave his arms and his legs, and about why he enjoys doing that. And essentially, we're just trying to help him with his body dysmorphia and helping him feel comfortable. Manscaping. Feel comfortable in his body. And you can still, do this.
Right.
And so every family is different. Every situation is different. This is just one unique story. I'm not advising this for anybody.
Well, I'm glad you told that and gave that example, because a lot of us are always curious about what, some of the stories are that you've gone through in your life. I've never heard that one. I remember when I was in college, I went to a church in San Diego. It was called the Rock Church, which I believe you introduced me to back in high school, pastored by Miles McPherson, an old football player from the NFL Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
And he started off, at the NFL, was doing cocaine and doing bad stuff, and got in the NFL and completely changed his ways. And now he's a pastor, one of the biggest churches in Southern California. Anyway, there's this, I have it written in my Bible. And I still remember to this day. He says, being different, just to be different, is just like being normal. But being different because God wants you to be different basically is the path that we're all supposed to be on. Now, how does one figure that out if you have a religious background and want to go that route? I don't know. But what we're trying to say is you can promote being different. That's what we're all supposed to be, unique and different. We don't have to be the same.
That's good. Let's build on that. Let's give our audience, as we kind of come to the last few minutes of our show together, let's give our audience, people listening, some more do's and don'ts. So let's sit on that great point about being different. So I feel like it's really good advice to say this. You have no idea what identity your child is going to land in from the age 17 through 24. So as a good parent, we need to be
Right.
flexible and loving and patient and
Right.
accepting that
Right.
they might want to do things. There's a strong chance they might want to go down a path different than you and develop an identity that's scary for you because it's so different. I feel like the key is love. And part of love means being flexible and understanding, compassionate for your child who is different than you.
Right. As long as it's healthy, right? We wouldn't want to promote anything not healthy for your kids, obviously. And that can be part of the conversation. But yeah, love is all
Love.
you need.
Well, so point 8 is
Love
this.
is all you need.
Help me. We can help me wordsmith this since we're making up on the spot. Point 8 would be, loving non-support. There's got to be a better way to wordsmith that, but there is a way to lovingly not support. Here's an example.
Here.
Hey, Sean, can I talk to you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you be Sean. I'll be you. Okay. You'll be Sean.
No.
You're 17-year-old Sean, and you just got caught at school for giving a speech with 3x5 cards. Okay. Let's replay that. I'm going to talk to my inner child, and I'm going to be the parent that maybe I wish I needed at that time. So you just try to be Sean, because I was a good kid. I cared about my parents. I cared about my teacher. I cared about my friends. I didn't want to hurt my teacher's feelings. She was a great teacher. I became an English major. I loved English. So, hey, buddy. So we got a note from your teacher, son, about what you did with 305 cards.
Okay. What'd they say?
Well, you got caught. So I got caught. So the scenario is you got caught.
Right.
Well,
I know.
Well, I just kind of was curious. Why did you do that? Why did you say inappropriate things?
I mean, it wasn't inappropriate. It was, come on, it was funny.
Sean,
everyone laughed.
It must have been
funny.
hilarious.
It wasn't mean.
Like, it sounds very funny. Like, were the kids
Thanks, Dad.
Sean, you're
worked on it a lot.
You're very funny, and like I can see like you enjoy being the funny guy, and your friends see you as the funny guy. That must feel good to be funny.
Yeah, the whole class
I wish I
was
could have been there.
up.
I would have been.
And the speech was great. It was about Shakespeare. I think I got an A on it.
You probably did. I mean, but we got to talk about what's happening with you and humor.
Well, I mean, what do you mean? I'm the funny guy, Dad. Everyone knows me being the funny guy. Everyone was laughing.
Funny guy, and I think this is what's happening.
Listen, Mrs. Anderson didn't even know.
You got caught, and now I'm your parent, and it's my job to help you develop like really healthy identity, to view yourself and to use this gift you have called humor. And it's my job to help you.
So are you saying I can't be funny anymore?
You have a gift. You have a gift of making people laugh and saying weird, creative things.
Thanks, Dad. Okay.
I see this in you. But I want to help you to channel this gift and to use it wisely, because I don't think you used it wisely in the class that day. Do you think?
I don't know what you would say here. What do you think you would say here?
Like, did you show love and respect to your teacher that day?
No, but it was just like,
right, but
it wasn't even
what you want to do?
It was just like a funny little thing.
I know,
I didn't
just
say to
check in
her.
with you.
Listen, I was nervous. I don't like public speaking. The way that my nerves go calm down is if I can make people laugh. And in that moment, I just thought, man, I can really do this. And I did great while I was up there because I wasn't as nervous.
I just want you to think about this.
I didn't have stage fright.
I know.
I just want you
to think about this, okay? Because first of all, you don't have to be funny with me, and you don't have to be funny. Your true friends will love you for who you are, and there's a wonderful woman out there that you're going to fall in love with one day and marry, and you don't have to act out for her. Like, you are enough. I just want you to know that's how I see you. Okay? You can be funny if you want, but you don't need to. I just want you to know that's
Yeah.
how I view you. Okay. And can I run an idea
Thanks,
past
Dad.
you? Okay. My hope for you
Sure.
is that you develop this identity as a comedian, as a funny guy, but you do it in a way that doesn't hurt other people or disrespect women or your teachers.
Do you think she got hurt? Is she upset?
Okay. She wrote you up, man. You got detention.
I didn't want that.
You got.
Well, she was mad.
You got Saturday
I just think
school
she
for
got hurt.
it. She must have felt like you were. I mean, the whole class was laughing at her. She couldn't see the cards. I know. Just think about it, please. Can you just sleep on it?
I told the joke.
I'm trying to coach you. Be funny if you want. You don't need to be, but use your humor in a way that doesn't hurt people's feelings. Do the hard work of being a funny guy who doesn't cross that line. Okay. It's up to you. You can decide on any humor you want. That's just what I would want for you, my son. Okay. But hey, man, are we okay? Did you like how I handled that? Do you have any thoughts for me?
No, I don't know what you would have said there, but
okay, great.
No, that was good.
By the way, what did you?
Like, how is Sean?
Well, I never had anybody ever talk to me that way.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of us haven't. That's why we're here trying to. I would love to talk to my kids that way. I say we should, but sometimes in the moment I don't.
To that, me too, man. I do this. I wish I was a family coach.
Like, what were you thinking? Are you serious right
funny,
now?
Man? You're the funny guy, huh? You're the funny guy. You're just trying to be cool, huh?
Right.
It's reactionary.
Right.
So there's a couple of things that I want to point out, the do's and don'ts that I did right there. Did you see anything that you liked or that, we can make a scene?
Yeah, you affirmed that they are funny. You are cool with them being funny. You told them, like, I think you're funny. You're amazing.
So that would be a do.
But
so pause.
You don't have to be funny. Yes.
When an adult says to a child, like, you're good at this, you have a gift. That is so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. That is good. And then you followed up by saying, but this gift doesn't, you don't have to have this gift to receive my love. You don't have to have this gift to be amazing.
Yeah.
You are amazing with or without it, is kind of the trend that I got.
Yeah. And I think when I coached him, did you notice that little thing I did? Hey, can I run an idea past you? So instead of just lecturing him, I just soft started him. Can I run an idea past you? Jordan, we did some intense stuff on this episode. Let me do the... Oh my gosh, here's a little recap of the wisdom that came out of our mouths. I don't know if that came out right. Here's some of the tools and tips that we tried to share with you.
You are funny.
So, all right, here's some things that came up. How do we build identity in the kids? One, build an identity to them of being a chameleon. Like, you are not one thing. You are not your one thing. You can change and adapt. Number two is acceptance of your weaknesses. The beautification of vulnerability. Number three is really being authentic, helping them to just be who they truly are in the face of peer pressure and social pressures. Number four is having the courage to be authentic and teaching them that is who you are. You're a courageous person. Number four is giving them online emotional support, emotion coaching with all the pressures that come with the online screen life. Number five would be, do not overparent them. Don't make identity about you.
Right. This isn't about us.
Number six is having an aura of flexibility as a parent, right? Just being flexible to let your child go through these stages and try new things, and don't freak out if they want to try something different, and just go with the flow and be their biggest fan. Sound good? And then the last two things that we just hit on hard is one is to really point out how they are strength. Like, celebrate it. Celebrate their strengths, their God-given strengths that they are really doing well of. And then I think I skipped one in there, which be, what was it? Loving non-support. Like, how do we say this? I don't feel like this is right for you. I don't want to support this. This doesn't feel good in a loving way. guidance.
in a loving way.
Man, we did a lot.
I love that. This was good, man, and I think it's important for all of us. So, if you didn't listen to that first episode about building identity, we did one prior to this, which was amazing. You went with I think it was
Mhm.
Eric Erickson's
Yep. Yep.
stages, whatever those stages were. But this one was good because we got real life examples. So, thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Jordan,
Mr.
for
Family
your
Coach.
amazing articulation and your stories today. And I'm also something that we haven't really hit too much of on this episode is for me, I think when I think of my identity, one of the things that I really think of is my own spirituality, my own relationship with God, who I find in my own, personal life and in the Bible, and finding your identity, like in God and the Lord, is such an amazing thing. It feels so good. So I'm just thankful to have to have a vibrant life and a relationship with God. It just helps me so much in my life and the man that I am. Tell us something you're thankful for.
It's good. Yeah. Well, I'm thankful that I figured out how to be a chameleon because without it, I was very lost. And when I had that realization, I was like, I can be whatever I want to be. It was
That's
that game
good.
changer moment. And if we can help our kids get to that identification process sooner rather than later, they're ultimately going to be that much stronger in life. So I'm thankful for all of that.